Most of us don't want to venture into the underbelly of this nuanced reality, even though most of us know it's there. We've all heard the most controversial opposing accountings that fly in the face of those we're provided with. We're okay with the label assigned to it. The term conspiracy theory leaves us with a level of feeling safe, that the overall control mechanism has essentially told us not to worry, because anything that may scare us is untrue according to that same control mechanism. There seems to be a minimum of at least two opposing entities, parties, personalities, political camps, religious or otherwise, in no matter which country of the world you pick. These entities will have a real or imagined friction between them, and they'll garner the attention and support of most of the corresponding populations. This attention creates the friction, the pole energy that the control mechanism needs in order to sustain itself, much like the stored energy created from the positive and negative poles of any battery. The point of this reference is that all of us feel this is all there is. We may not even agree with any of it. We may despise anything the system itself offers, but we still believe this is all there is. And when any alternative information is offered, we're instructed, often by our own voice, to ignore it as preposterous. But in nearly every movie, the protagonist, antagonist, and the hero all encounter hurdles that propel them through the story, and at some point uncover something they had not only never suspected, but the audience is also caught off guard. Strange how life imitates art, but only to a point.
What are you doing? This man is an imposter.
No, this traitor tried to kill me and had my beard removed. Look! Arrest the Viper Tamir!
And now, in another amazing turn of events, Tamir Mafrad is being taken away.
This constitution is nothing but a license for oil companies and foreign interests to destroy my beloved Wadiya. Wadiya will remain a dictatorship. Woo! Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try. I will tell you what democracy is. Democracy is the worst. Endless talking and listening to every stupid opinion, and everybody's vote counts, no matter how crippled or black or female they are. Democracy.
What is a simulation? All of us have an idea. It's a copy or something similar, make-believe, but what do we actually know about the origins of this word or its root simulacrum? What if what we call reality is in fact a simulation, or our personal interpretation of what it is we're experiencing? We've heard it described as postmodernist or advanced capitalistic, but aren't those descriptions manufactured by those trying to capture our attention within it? Even what's being presented now is just my interpretation of all of it through my eyes and the filtering of the same through my mind. What if those that had come before us had understood this to be a simulation as well? because this is what Plato had written about in his allegory of a cave, where he describes a group of people who have lived out their lives chained to the wall of a cave. The people watch shadows projected on the opposing wall from objects passing in front of a fire behind them. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but they aren't accurate representations of the real world. Over time, one of the prisoners escapes the cave and finds himself beneath the blinding sun. Over time, his eyes adjust to the more defined images of a different reality. He returns to the cave, imploring the others to escape and understand their predicament, but instead he's refused and shunned by the rest as a lunatic. In his writing, The Theory of Forms, Plato likens the human body as a prison for the soul. The only time we can tell the real from the false is when we're in one or the other, but then I guess that would depend on which one you were in fact born into.
We'll probably want to register at the Disneyland Hotel. Everything's on wheels here, even the people. And one of these little trams will bring us right to the main entrance of the hotel. Here all the family will find a warm welcome and the finest in modern hospitality. This is outdoor living at its carefree best. Scattered throughout these spacious grounds are many recreational areas, where guests of all ages may enjoy games and social activities. Well, now that we've checked in and had a plunge in the pool, it's off to Disneyland.
Now, the best way to understand the metaverse is to experience it yourself. Experience it yourself.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel very well right now.
And you wouldn't feel well either if you attempted to spend 24 hours living in virtual reality, or the metaverse. Don't know what the metaverse is? That's okay. I'm not sure anyone really does. But Meta, formerly known as Facebook, Microsoft, and more, are defining it as the virtual world that is the next phase of the internet. In this world, we have digital versions of ourselves, or avatars.
And we call this the metaverse. And you're gonna be able to do almost anything you can imagine. Get together with friends and family, work, learn, play, shop.
Wow. The word simulacrum, which means likeness, semblance, is a representation or imitation of a person or thing. The word was first recorded in the English language in the late 16th century, used to describe a representation such as a statue or a painting, especially a god. Well, that's a little better, but still kind of cloudy. This before us is the human Statue of Liberty. This photo was taken in 1919 and is comprised of a total of 18,000 people. There are 12,000 within the flame of the torch, while 6,000 make up the remaining image. Plato was referring to an optical illusion such as this in his discussion of the simulacra. This, of course, was well before television and just barely into the realm of movies and film as we know them today. Jean Baudrillard is quoted, "Television viewers form the overall structure of television itself." End quote. We watch the television, then unwittingly model our behavior after the same. Then TV further reflects that change in what is called hyperreality. We are one and the same DNA structure. Reality television is anything but real. There are cameras there, and those beings before the cameras must perform in order to stimulate the audience and elicit a response. Otherwise, it's nothing but a static event, much like watching paint dry. Most now realize that large portions of our collective history worldwide has been rewritten, with most of it being fabricated. The reason being is it has to fit with today's narrative. Movies are made which are further fabrication of an already false event, kind of like the reheating of a fantastic dinner you had 2 nights before. The food is still good, but it's not the same as it was, including the atmosphere surrounding it. It's a reasonable facsimile of what it was. Walt Disney World is probably the best description of a simulation. It's an imitation of the fabrication of the modern world in combination with a history that has been generated through individual accountings and then pieced together using both actors, robotics, statuary, and architecture to pull it all off. It's an enjoyable fabrication of false history. There, I said it. Clearly, the world in which we live is far from a utopia. But if it were, we'd not derive the sensory feedback of this experience. We would never understand death, loss, love, triumph, defeat, wealth, poverty, war, etc. Jean Baudrillard is again quoted, "Higher education promotes the simulation rather than confronting it. It's been subsumed by our culture's collective empty values." This would seem to be the only realm in which survival means killing and eating another in order to live on. Animals live in harmony until they're hungry, and then the hierarchy, survival of the fittest, plays out. So maybe this world is in fact the realm of Lucifer. It's a copy of utopia. But without it, we wouldn't be able to obtain the sensory we need to move on. Many may not realize, but long before we were exposed to reality television, we were in fact exposed to reality television. There was a network show entitled American Family. This is 1971.
Would you read that first poem to me again?
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sure will.
If you don't feel like it, then.
No, I want to. Nothing can be bigger than a promise by L. Loud. Nothing can be bigger than a promise. Nothing can be smaller than the truth. Nothing can be wiser than a liar unless you know exactly what is true. And by the way, have you heard in whispers, the truth is all we need and nothing more. We've all come such a long way for this party, but can you tell me what we're waiting for? I really hate to ask these silly questions, because I was with the crowd that came along. I should know exactly what was doing before I entered in to flow along. But here we are upon this murky seashore. No caucus race will ever get us dry. I heard it said that truth would come and warm us, but to wait upon the truth is but a lie.
Like it or not, this virtual world has been here for a while, just as the internet had been around for decades before it was splashed upon the hoi polloi. Massive corporations have squandered millions already colonizing the virtual real estate out in front of it all. I'm guessing that in less than 20 years' time, commerce will be taking place within the metaverse or whatever they end up calling it, because it hasn't even been rolled out yet. When it is, we'll know it, because overnight governments will be mandating its use if you want to stay viable inside the Fortune 500 marketplace. It will simply be the thing to do if you're going to be real about it. Get it? Well, what does that mean for the rest of us? Well, if many are immersed in the metaverse, then won't that mean less traffic on the roads, fewer people traveling and clogging up the airports? It'll be interesting as we move forward, because already Elon Musk has mentioned the first Neuralink chip has been implanted inside a human subject, and they're calling it a success, which tells me that most likely they've been doing this for a while now.
Miles, you and I are scientific men. You can understand the wonder of what's happened. Now just think. Less than a month ago, Santa Mara was like any other town. People with nothing but problems. Then out of the sky came a solution. Seeds drifting through space for years took root in a farmer's field. From the seeds came pods, which have the power to reproduce themselves in the exact likeness of any form of life.
So that's how it began. Out of the sky.
Your new bodies are growing in there. They're taking you over, cell for cell, atom for atom. There's no pain. Suddenly, while you're asleep, they'll absorb your minds, your memories, and you're reborn into an untroubled world.
Where everyone's the same?
Exactly.
What a world. We're not the last humans left. They'll destroy you.
Tomorrow you won't want them to. Tomorrow you'll be one of us.
I love Becky. Tomorrow will I feel the same?
There's no need for love.
No emotion. Then you have no feelings. Only the instinct to survive. You can't love or be loved, am I right?
You say it as if it were terrible. Believe me, it isn't. You've been in love before. It didn't last. It never does. Love, desire, ambition, faith. Without them, life's so simple, believe me.
I don't want any part of it.
You're forgetting something, Miles.
What's that?
You have no choice.
Where is our collective compass? Where are we headed? Another election is brewing, and we're all ready to cast yet another vote in the direction we feel will be most beneficial to our family and the country as a whole. At least that's the slogan of our favorite candidate, right? We're much more integral to the future of this reality than we know, and antiquity tried to relay all of this information to us in the form of symbolism. And there is an amazing synchronicity which differs completely from that which is drilled into our minds from the very instant we arrive. Much of what we learn is integral to this reality, or matrix. It's a roadmap of rules corresponding to the life within this game, this reality, this simulation. It implores we become very well versed in the nuances of the game's rules written on the underside of the cover of the box in which we live. Those rules have anything and everything to do with this simulation, but nothing at all to do with our journey through it. And this is what many different cultures of the past intended for us to understand. This is why the Bible's been rewritten so many times and left open to interpretation of those trying to curb our minds from wandering. Many of those that came before us used paintings and symbols to convey that which they'd hoped would transcend language, which they anticipated being corrupted. They knew societies would be divided, borders would be instituted, and more religions created, languages and words devised to further various agendas, but take the collective far away from any real truth pertaining to our individual journeys. What's transpiring now across the world is mass awakening, not driven by any political agenda or remotely connected to any government for that matter. It's more of a ping or a tap from the recesses of our past, a reminder that we are far more than a source of energy or a spoke in the wheel attached to the grand treadmill of this corporate web. At this very same moment, a mass distraction from this awakening has also been in the engineering and design stages for the last 25 years or so. The internet was preparing us for this transition. Not the natural organic occurrence, but rather the usual synthetic or man-made architecture which will obscure an attempt to abscond with our very soul. And if you think this is a bit melodramatic, then you may want to reassess. The corporations/governments, because they are one and the same, are preparing another reality, one which will take us even further from where we've come, to a place where there will be no escape, no exit for the mind. There will only ever be a recycling back into that false synthetic universe of which they will have full oversight and control. But if we don't understand that which we've in fact come from, then how will we understand the new direction laid before us? Especially if it comes wrapped in mandates and corporate directives in the form of employment. That's right. Before the masses fully awaken from their current predicament, another will be rolled out before them in the form of a wonderful option. One that will come in an amazing package. Something along the lines of your new employer subsidizing your entrance to this new reality. It may include a new VR or virtual reality goggles required to operate within an avatar of your choice. No more waking up early to shower, shave, find some clean clothes, grab breakfast, commute, and get into work on time. Simply roll out of bed and power on your goggles. Bam. There you are, at work. Sounds attractive, right? And many will rush to adopt this apparent simplicity, unaware of what they're giving up, blind to the theft. And it'll be much too late to find your way back, even if we remember who and what we are. This has been in the planning stages most likely for the better part of 100 years.
Doing a privacy change for 350 million users is a really, it's not the type of thing that a lot of companies would do. We decided that these would be the social norms now, and we just went for it.
Google is effectively a $500 a year service because that's the value of the data that you're providing.
If they use 10% of that data, they're going to be the most valuable company ever.
Companies that you've never heard of claim to have about 1,500 points of data on the average American citizen.
Is it hard to go through it and actually find specific details about a person?
No, that's super easy. Within a couple of minutes, you can figure out what people voted for, what psychological problems they have, what parties they've been to.
They're saying it's because I agreed to the latest terms and conditions on iTunes.
No one has read the terms and conditions. No one in the world.
To the extent there have been contract decisions, they've held that these terms and conditions are valid.
And what if your phone came with these long terms and conditions said, well, if you use the phone, the government can wiretap you? That would be insane. But that's the kind of world we're living in.
Anything that's been digitized is not private. And that is terrifying.
For the government to get information from a Google or a Facebook is a lot easier than the government doing it itself and putting a wiretap on our phones.
You have to put these powers into somebody's hands.
Like social networks in recent times.
If you have something that you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
That's always what scared me, was if there's some sort of automated system that just red flags you based on the search term.
You can see that surveillance measures are being used to silence protests before they even happen.
Boom, NYPD SWAT, their bulletproof vests on, their guns drawn.
I was like, are you being serious? Are you actually holding me because of a tweet?
So we were locked away in Lewisham Police Station for 25 hours.
All these powerful institutions, they're not subject to the same invasions of privacy as the rest of us are.
So far, the population seems fine with it. If they weren't, they know who to call.
This client asked us to obscure his voice and face.
So here she is.
She's gorgeous.
She is.
A true work of art. It's just heart-stopping. She's going to be wonderful, Mike. Thank you.
He already owns 4 dolls. His newest, Tanya, joined us for the interview. As soon as Harmony is available for purchase, he's ready for an upgrade.
The first time I saw Harmony, and when she was talking, I was mesmerized by it. She could smile, batting her eyes, moving her head, and being able to physically interact with these pieces of art is amazing.
Don't you want to be able to actually be with a thinking, feeling human being who can have conversations with you, who can empathize with you?
You know, it's so funny. I don't miss that. I was married for 15 years. Creating a companion that you can physically program, they won't lie to you, they will always be honest, they will have no malice.
Some people listening to this are going to think it's super weird.
I'm sure.
What would you say to them?
In 20 years, it'll be normal. I think everybody will have some form of robotic companionship.
Ah, yes, the sweet sounds of a dairy plant. You may not have been to the metaverse yet, but these cows are already working there. Turkish cattle breeder Izzet Koçak outfitted his animals with virtual reality glasses to simulate vast pastures and sunny skies. In other words, Izzet says the cows feel more relaxed and are able to produce more milk because they feel like they're actually in a pasture instead of a sterile man-made facility. The VR glasses have been specially made for the bovines. Izzet says he came up with the idea while trying to produce more milk to compete with rising prices in Turkey. The headsets were originally tested out in Russia before Izzet got his hands on them. He says they've been such a success, he's ordering 10 more for his herd. Could this be the beginning of a new movement?
Wow. Sounds pretty hopeless, doesn't it? Guess what? Not at all. And quite frankly, they're worried not enough of us will plunge into this phony world. All we need to remember, they need our consent. It will never work unless we agree to enter into a contract with this synthetic octopus. Sure, it may get uncomfortable for a bit. They may huff and puff and threaten all kinds of punishments, but in the end, they've always done that anyway. Because of universal law surrounding free will, their corrupt magic doesn't work unless we agree to their terms and conditions. Now, having said this, there will be hordes of people standing in lines to buy the newest Apple, Sony, Panasonic, Lawnmower Man, VR goggles long before the corporations even roll out their employment packages. We know that. Many won't be able to help themselves. You know the old saying, you can't stop progress, right? So, there will be many happy to jump headlong into this newest Shangri-La. But the ultimate decision will, as usual, come down to the individual, as it should. You will have to answer that question for yourself, because this time there will be no halfway. It'll be all in, and after a few decades or less, many will get tired of the goggles and instead welcome the ease of simply having a tiny chip injected through their skull. This way, all we'll need to do is think about going online, and there we'll be, inside our avatar and ready to do business anywhere in the world. But by that time, will God and the Bible even enter into our thoughts as a question? Or will they instead seem more the intruder? Who knows? Only you will be able to answer that.
I'm going to tell you 5 facts about myself. One fact is not true. 1, I graduated from Harvard at 19 with an honors degree in mathematics. 2, I currently run a construction company in Orlando. 3, I starred on a television sitcom. 4, I lost my sight to a rare genetic eye disease. 5, I served as a law clerk to 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices. Which fact's not true? Actually, they're all true. Yeah, they're all true. Thank you.